guys in the dark.
I don't remember the exact day Colin became part of my life. I glimpsed a neighbor that I'd sometimes nod to. I knew he was a long-distance truck driver, and I think he knew who I was. When our paths had crossed, he would seldom meet my gaze. I don't even remember when I first heard his name. A familiar voice had uttered it, though my wife's. It wasn't by way of an introduction, although years later I did wonder how that might have gone. Honey, you've seen that handsome man with the blonde hair, broad shoulders, and light tan who lives at number 18? His name is Colin. But no, rather more mundanely, she referred to him as matter-of-factly in conversation. Colin took the remains of that old fence to the dump for me today. Or, by the way, Colin mended the lawnmower, then he mowed the lawn. Colin was indeed the helpful friend who lived down the road. It is easier now to see that he was more of an astute people watcher than he seemed. He must have known that my job often took me abroad, and he probably had me profiled as a workaholic. As insensitive to my wife's needs as I was, trusting of her fidelity. By then we'd been married for some time and had 2 young children. While I was away, my wife stayed at home taking care of the kids. I thought that we were happy, but in truth, I was too wrapped up in my job to even know. My life went on, and secretly, day by day, it was written down. My wife was a meticulous diarist and spent 20 minutes every evening logging the day's events. One afternoon I walked into her bedroom and noticed that she left her diary on the bed. This was unusual, but stranger still, it was open. I went to put it in her bedside drawer, but as I closed the pages, I caught sight of the word Colin. My immediate impulse was to slam the diary shut and try to forget that I'd seen his name before it had a chance to sink in. Instead, I started to read. The entries stretched back months, detailing their covert liaisons, romantic, practical, but mostly sexual. The descriptions ranged from the relatively tame, kissed and cuddled today, it was lovely, to the kind of things that you get into the racier passages of a Mills and Boon novel. Nothing too graphic, but surprisingly comprehensive. My jaw ached with panic, and I felt the sudden flush of adrenaline. Of course I confronted her. I wanted to yell at her, but my initial anger was quickly extinguished by shock. I felt numb, confused, with tears in my eyes. She said that she hadn't been happy with me for years, and that he provided an escape. At that moment, I didn't know what to say. It was 4 or 5 hours before we would sit down and talk. We discussed the usual options, including divorce, but decided to stay together for the sake of our children, make a fresh start. The next day, she told Colin that it was over. We hadn't seen him for a couple of weeks. He'd been driving on the continent, but he never did return. The news that he had gone missing on a ship, presumed lost overboard, was taken to us by the next-door neighbor. My wife's first reaction was stunned disbelief, as was mine. Then she turned away and covered her mouth, trying to stifle any sobs that she had, thoughts and emotions more tangled than ever. I tried to comfort her. Colin's death was confirmed by positive identification of a body that was washed up on the beach. Some weeks later, my wife asked if we could drive to the crematorium so that she could lay some flowers and say her final farewells. It felt strange, but in the hopes of her finding some kind of closure, I told myself that it was the right thing to do. Somehow, and completely irrationally, I felt involved in Colin's death, as if a personal timeline had been derailed on my behalf, and destiny rewritten to rescue a failing relationship. Slowly we tried to put it behind us, and his name was never mentioned again. Years later, we had another child, and our marriage entered a new, happier phase. I vowed to be more attentive and adjust my work-life balance, but I couldn't forget the affair, especially how close it had happened to home. I should have trusted my instinct. Many years later, she ran off with my best friend. I live with my dad because I am slightly disabled. I depend on him or others for transportation, food, and things like that. But I'm working on depending on me only now. Recently I got a job, but it does suck. I work at Subway, and the pay is pretty trash. Here is the start of my story. My dad met his current girlfriend right before COVID hit, so he only knows her for like half a year. She's a year younger than me. I happen to be 30. He met her at his job, sleeping around with like 5 men in one damn week. He felt bad for her and tried to stop her. She got out of what she claims was an abusive relationship. Somehow he ended up dating her. He feels ashamed he is with someone younger than his own daughter, so he keeps her around as if it was some kind of secret. But being nice, I didn't judge them, and I even supported them. I, being naive as hell, believed that it would be okay and rooted for them. Because of this, I got involved in their life. And they brought me around to their vacations and eat-outs. I was even given presents by her. At first, she called him like 5 times every day just to talk to him. He began to get annoyed by it, but she kept doing it. Once he learned how to text, he hates technology, by the way. She texted him like 5 times a day, too. I told him that she was obsessed with him, and he agreed, but still stayed in the relationship. To this day, he still happens to date her. Next came the accusations of cheating. She would call the phone just to start an argument. She even tried to guilt him by relating him to her ex just because he missed a holiday meal. Her ex, she claimed, happened to cheat. The man was dead tired that day and couldn't make it without risking a car crash. But she had the nerve to pull out, "You're like my ex" manipulation. He once told me that she'd give him looks if he even tried to talk to a woman. Once she realized he sleeps most of the day away, she stopped accusing him. It doesn't end there, though. Actually, it gets pretty worse. He always brought her to the house for sex, not caring that I was in the house. One day I caught him saying things loud, what he'd do to her, kind of things. One night, a vacation night, with her little kids with us, I caught her moaning. All I did was tell them that they were loud, and they went crazy. Eventually, Dad caught on to my concerns, but she never did. I personally think that she didn't care if her kids heard her. After I told them that they were loud, I was expecting to go with her that same day to go get shoes. She was buying. I got in her SUV, and she proceeded to tell me to get out. I did, angrily, and went into the house. My dad asked me why I was back. I told him that she told me to get out of her car. He and I went to her vehicle, and he asked what happened. She lied to him. She told him that she never said that, and even made up a bullshit story that she told me to get up front. I was in the back with her kids, by the way. Her kids were there, and I know her son heard. He wouldn't say anything, though, because he thinks that she'll leave him. He has issues, and he's told me that he is scared that she will leave him because of his issues. Fast forward, and she does another lie, this time on text message. She tried to pull a fast one, but I grabbed a previous conversation and sent it to her. She stopped instantly with her games, knowing that I can't be fooled. She's like a coward. She stopped texting further. I showed Dad the text message, and to this day he claims everything is a misunderstanding. He ignores the conversation text. She told me that we didn't have a conversation, and I posted that conversation in text. He denied it, even in worded proof, to this day. Fast forward even more. I happen to be fed up with this bullshit. I had a mental breakdown a week from when I'm writing this. He grabbed me by the neck and told me that that woman and I only had a misunderstanding. Basically told me to shut up with his hands around me. I'm currently looking for a domestic violence shelter. My ex-girlfriend stopped by to visit. I had just eaten enough Chinese food at a buffet to be near passed out. I was lying on the blow-up mattress, and I hear her growl, "You son of a bitch!" And then boom, she punches me in the teeth. I asked her what the fuck her problem was. At the time I was broke, so I didn't have any furniture. Everything was neatly placed in my room, including my condoms. She counted them and noticed that one was missing from the last time that she visited. I scrambled up, and she spit in my face. I told her to just leave. And then I walked out the door. That's when she opened up my cabinet, took out the toaster oven, and threw it at the side of my head. My head was ringing. Glass was all over the floor from the broken oven door. Blood was trickling from my head. I happened to be panicked. I didn't want to hurt her, but she had to leave my house immediately. I told her that I would call the cops if she didn't leave. The whole time in between assaulting me, she was frantically glancing around the room for other signs that I was cheating, even though I happened to be single, and for stuff to assault me with. I opened the door to encourage her to exit my house, and she started screaming at me. She then said she would get everyone in the neighborhood thinking that I was assaulting her. I pleaded with her to please leave, and she started tearing into the bare skin of my chest with her nails, grabbing and pinching and pulling at it. I forced her out of the door and then locked it. She started bashing at the windows. Finally, she got into her car and left. I slid to the floor, called my parents in complete shock and sobbing. I hadn't experienced that kind of crazy in my life before. She just attacked me in a fit of rage. I didn't want to hit her back. I just wanted to be left alone. The whole experience had me wondering about the mental problems that she must be hiding the entire time that we were together. I was so afraid that she would do something crazy like wreck her car just to get revenge on me, or hurt my dog, or even call the police with a fake story. I once dated a stalker. However, what makes my story unusual is that she wasn't stalking me, although it ended up becoming my problem, as you'll see. Even though I wasn't the victim of her stalking, I didn't necessarily have a great relationship with her either. I met this girl, let's call her Annie, on a forum devoted to a video game we all loved. There were discussions about the game and some light roleplay. This was about a decade ago, and I was young, stupid, had some problems that led to other poor decisions in my life, and had just ended my first serious relationship, which is due to this ex's bipolar disorder. Would have been an emotional roller coaster for anyone. Online, Annie was as sweet as could be, and was especially sympathetic about what had happened in my last relationship, claiming she had just gotten out of a chaotic relationship herself. We talked a lot, and we jokingly suggested getting together. Eventually, a major anime convention on the East Coast rolled around, and many members of the forum were attending, including myself, Annie, and the other person in this story, who I'll call Ron. I'd spoken to Ron a bit before the convention on the forum and AIM, and hadn't particularly liked him, but I didn't hate him either. He just seemed pretty standoffish and had a short temper. While he could be fun to talk to sometimes, I had to make sure to only talk about the sort of things we would on the forum, as you never knew what would set him off. The convention came, and Annie, Ron, and I all met in person for the first time, as well as some other members of the forum. I was there with another group, including my best friend, and had stated beforehand I'd be spending most of my time with them, but that I'd try to hang out with them when I could for photo ops and the like. However, upon meeting Annie, she immediately latched on to me, going on about how I was much cuter than she expected, and I was getting even sweeter in person than online. In hindsight, I can see she was playing on the vulnerability she knew I had, but at the time, I was immediately smitten. As a result, I spent most of the convention with her. I also spent a lot of time with Ron, who ended up being nastier in person than he was online, but for some reason, Annie adored him. Again, 20/20 hindsight, I think she thought that by fawning over me, she'd make him jealous, but he wasn't interested in the first place, so it didn't work. Well, the weekend came to an end. Near to the end of it, Ron was removed by security and banned from ever attending another after he beat the crap out of a girl who had tried to hug him. She had declined to press charges since he had asked her not to hug him, so she took part of the blame. With Ron out of the way now, Annie turned her focus entirely to me, or so I thought. By the end of the weekend, Annie had declared herself my girlfriend. You know how people talk about red flags? Annie might as well have been a living red flag. She called the shots throughout her short relationship, and when I said that, I mean I literally had no say in anything. She told me what our relationship status was, and when. She told me we were going out. Within days of that, she told me we were engaged. Because she lived in Ontario, and I lived in Maine,
She refused to move for me. She demanded I move to Ohio with her. I didn't move, but I had begun making plans to do so when she abruptly told me, "This is all happening too fast. We're over." Well, no crap, it was moving fast. In the span of a week, we went from dating to engaged. And in less than 2 months, it was over. It was a wild ride, to say the least. And although I was upset at first when it ended, when I was in a better place mentally and emotionally, I was just immensely relieved to have her out of my life, or so I thought. The sign of things to come was when Annie admitted to me that the relationship with her girlfriend back home that she had claimed she had ended badly actually hadn't ended at all. But she totally intended to break it off before I got to Ohio. Shortly after that was our breakup, and then I started to get messages and calls from Ron. Apparently, although Annie was posting publicly everywhere on various social media her relationship status with me, she was actually bombarding him with instant messages, texts, and phone calls, professing her love to him and promising that she would drop me in a hot minute if he gave the word. He repeatedly told her he wasn't interested, blocked her on AIM, blocked her number, and left the forum. Ron messaged and called me to inform me of this. Although I told him repeatedly we'd already broken up, he seemed to believe Annie's behavior was my fault, and that it was my job to rein her in, although he never came out and told me so. I think Annie was telling him lies about me. As I later found out, he was trash-talking me elsewhere. Somehow, this convinced him that I was somehow responsible for Annie's stalking, and that I could put a kibosh on it if I wanted. I repeatedly told him we'd broken up, we weren't even speaking anymore, and if she was posing a serious problem, to call the cops. So here I am, with Annie stalking Ron blaming me for stalking while semi-stalking me. I have no idea how to get out of this. Annie actually moved to the state that Ron lived in, and started running into him in public places everywhere he went. She followed him home and would try to visit, insisting that she wasn't pursuing him. They were just friends. He told her to screw off in no certain terms. But undeterred, Annie still kept coming to his house, sometimes when he wasn't there, and Ron was still somehow convinced this was all my fault, so it was my responsibility to fix it. I changed my number eventually, as well as my online presence so that he wouldn't be able to find me on social media or the like. I really don't know how things ended with Ron and Annie. As I said, I eventually found Ron trash-talking me elsewhere, but it was for reasons unrelated to Annie. For 2 years, this guy carried a grudge against me because of my brief association with a crazy girl who was fixated on him. About a decade later, I've seen no sign of Ron or Annie anywhere online. I even went to the convention again the year after I met Annie, and although I had some issues regarding another relationship while there, I never saw Ron or Annie. So Ron, while I hope the stalking thing ends peacefully and nothing bad happened to you, and Annie, let's not meet again.
Back when I was 18, I had met a girl who seemed like she was a pretty amazing girl. Her name was Whitney. We both had mutual friends who all claimed that she was a wonderful person. Oh, how wrong they were. Before I get off track, here's the story. It was a usual Friday night at the bowling alley. My buddy Mark, who we happened to call Beetlejuice at the time. He stands a little bit taller than me, at about 6'3", with short blonde buzz-cut hair. He drove his girlfriend Ashley, who was pretty short. She stood about 5'2", had long blonde hair, and was skinny. She basically looked like a baby doll. Mark had found me sitting with some of my friends, and tells me that he has someone for me to meet. Mark tells me about a friend that he went to high school with named Whitney. As we are walking to his black Jeep Wrangler, Mark explains a little bit about Whitney, and thinks that we will hit it off just fine. Once we reach his car, I see Ashley talking to a black-haired girl, who was a little bit bigger, but still looked pretty cute. Ashley runs over and gives me a hug, introduces me to the girl. She tells me her name is Whitney, and they went to school together. As the night went on, me and Whitney talked a lot. Right before they left, I decided to get her number. After I got her number, and me giving her mine, they had left. so I decided to get back to whoever was left at the bowling alley. No sooner than I get back with my friends, Whitney has messaged me and started talking through the night with me. Once I got home, Whitney calls me. She explains that she wants to talk for a little while, so I told her that it would be better to chat that way anyways. So we talk on the phone all night long, giggling like schoolchildren. Everything was going well. We hung out the next week, and I met her mother Sheila, who was probably in her 50s, and had Whitney's niece and nephews. As the night went on, Whitney and I stayed close by. We talked through the night. Before Whitney got picked up, she gave me a deep, passionate kiss and told me to call her later before getting in her mom's car and leaving. The days went by. We both talked about our feelings before making it official. At this time, we had hung out at her house, and Sheila had started to offer to let me stay over. I guess at the time, she had liked me, because I quickly became like a son to her. I was always helping around the house and spending days and nights over there. Everything seemed fine for the first few months. Suddenly, Whitney claimed that I was going to go cheat one day when I was going to be picked up by my friends. I didn't think anything of this, and explained that I spent most of my days and nights with her. We slept together, and I'm very passionate with her, so there's definitely no way that she should be accusing me of cheating. There is definitely no reason to believe that I am cheating. She accepted it. Whitney constantly called me, wanting to know what was going on, and who I was with. She started to get very clingy, but I just let it be. This went on for months, and I started getting annoyed with her. After about 5 months, I blew up at her, telling her that the only reason anyone would believe and accuse someone of cheating is if they were doing it themselves. That started a heated argument, and I told her that we needed to stay away from each other for a couple of days, so that we can figure out if the relationship was worth keeping. After a few days, Whitney had called me, saying that she was sorry and that she loves me so much, that the days have not been the same without me. I agreed, and that I could not sleep without her next to me in bed, and that I wanted to see her again. So after that phone call, everything went back to normal. We stayed at her place and did everything that couples would do. I went out with my friends many times, and with her sometimes. This went on for a couple of weeks before the accusations started up once again. One night we had a get-together at Whitney's house with Mark and Ashley. We started drinking because her mom had bought us alcohol before leaving for the weekend. After drinking for a few hours, Whitney had ran to the bathroom, and Mark went outside for a smoke. Ashley was staring at me hard, so to get away from the situation, I decided to walk into the kitchen. Ashley follows me, and then tells me that she always wanted to fuck me, that she has a crush on me, and wanted what Whitney has. Drunk and confused at what I just heard, I told Ashley that if she wasn't with Mark, and I was not with Whitney, I would definitely date her. That I can't do that to either because I love Whitney and respect Mark as one of my best friends. That conversation ended right there, and everyone came back into the living room to start drinking again. We all stayed there, and Mark took Ashley home in the morning. Suddenly, Whitney started accusing me of cheating with Ashley while she was in the bathroom. After explaining what happened, I got slapped, and she claimed that I was lying to her. Somehow she knew that I was lying to her. Nothing I said made her realize that there was no way for me to fuck Ashley in the 2 minutes of her being in the bathroom, especially since Mark went outside a minute after she ran in there. The fights waged on, and nothing that I said would stop Whitney from accusing me of cheating, so I had my last straw with her and broke it off. A few days down the road, a buddy, we'll call him Robert, confronted me with video evidence of her with a heavy-set Mexican in Walmart. Robert told me that he recorded it off of his flip phone and was waiting to show me that she was cheating. I confronted Whitney with the evidence. She denied it and claimed that he was just a friend and gave me that bullshit excuses that most women would. I gave up and walked away from her. Many weeks later, Mark and Ashley had broken up. Mark happens to go and hang out at my house to drink with me. Mark explains that he had sex with Whitney and that she claimed me and her had broken up. After many questions, Mark told me that it was just a month ago, which was shortly before me and her broke up. Mark explains that he was drunk and that one thing led to another with her. Honestly, I wasn't mad at him. but more pissed off at her because who knows how many guys she cheated on me with. After the night was over, Mark left my house and went home. I blocked Whitney from all of my social media and blocked her number. Went to a few parties and celebrated being single by getting plastered with a few of my friends. Sadly, that was the start of my PTSD from dating, and me constantly thinking whoever I'm with will cheat and leave me. Many years later, I found out that she married the same guy that she was in Walmart with, and he cheated on her, then left her with 2 children. I guess all I can say is karma is a bitch, and Whitney definitely got what she deserved.
A few years ago, I was on the outs with a very dependent girlfriend. What started out as just casual dating turned into her practically living at my house, needing to constantly be in contact with me, and always trying to spy on my social media accounts. She was extremely depressed, and used my sympathy as a weapon to keep pulling me back whenever one of her crazy actions would push me away. It took my stupid, younger self a long time to see the pattern. When I finally did, and she realized that she was losing me, she ran over my dog, thinking that the grieving process would bring us back together. The worst part is, it kind of did. The pain of having to drive my dog to the vet, put him down, was too much for me to handle on my own, and for once, she was there for me instead of the other way around. Until a few weeks later when she drunkenly admitted that she had done it. I had never been so mad about anything. I was raised to never raise my hand to a woman, but my morals were seriously tested at that point. I just couldn't get the trip to the vet to put the little guy down out of my head. How could this person that loved me have done something so psychotic? I threw all her shit out and had to physically remove her from my house. I filed a restraining order, but before it went through, I had to threaten to press charges just to keep her away. I haven't talked to her since. I feel bad for anyone that gets caught up in her psycho shit. I thought that she loved me, but that really led me to wonder if she was some kind of psycho or sociopath who had been playing me for a fool this whole time. This all started back in 1985. I was an average 13-year-old boy who lived in a loving home with his mother, father, and 12-year-old kid sister. Well, I had played dress-up and dolls with my sister when we were younger. With that said, I never saw that our mom had taken pictures of me dressed up in a dress. Well, Dad was a man's man. This, simply put, means beer and sports. Football was his main sport. I could not even make the Pee-wee team. This, of course, did not make him very happy. I should say that I loved to help our mom in the kitchen. With our dad, any cooking or housework was woman's work. Therefore, it was right for my sister to help my mom in the kitchen. You see that whenever we cooked, Mom had made sure that we wore aprons. Mom did not want us to get our clothes dirty. I know you are wondering how this relates to how many girlfriends made me into her best friend forever. Well, we're getting to that point. You see, my dad was at work late on a Friday, and we were baking a cake for his birthday. Well, my girlfriend dropped by, so she would invite me to a picnic with her family on Saturday. With what we were doing, I had my hair tied up in a high ponytail like my sister. Anyway, with the aprons and hair up, my sister and I looked like 2 girls helping their mother. When she asked my mom where I was, Mom had pointed to the girl in purple. My girlfriend took a little while to figure out what she was seeing. When she found her voice again, she stated that if we were going to see each other, then I would have to do as she said, or we would end up breaking up. The thing with that choice was that she would tell everyone how she saw me. As it were, I was already hiding from the bullies. I knew that if they found out about my baking wearing girly items, then I knew my life would be over forever. So I agreed to her terms. At first it was nothing major, for she saw to it that all I had to do was wear panties. With this, my girlfriend stated, "I know you will not cheat on me, for you do not want anyone to know about your pretty panties." This in itself was bad enough with me being a year older than my sister. Things were taken up a notch. You see, my sister started to wear a training bra. So this girl said that since my little sister was now wearing a bra, that I should as well. If that were not bad enough, she said that she would be checking daily to make sure that I was in my bra. Now, my mom thought it was funny to see her son having to wear female foundation garments to keep his girlfriend. Now, Dad, on the other hand, said that since I was so bad at being a man, that it was only fitting proper for me to wear female undergarments. All of this hurt Dad's pride, and he said that he would see to it that his sissy son was in dresses and skirts with no chance or choice of wearing pants ever again while I lived under his roof. He stated that if I would have been a real man, then I would be able to wear pants. Well, to say that my secret got out at school would be an understatement, for the biggest bully found out that my bras and panties. This got me beat almost to death. While I was in the hospital recovering from the beating, my dad had them remove my testicle, while at the same time inserting estrogen into my body in a time-release formula when I got home from the hospital. My dad said, "Now you can wear all the panties and bras that you like, little sissy, for I made sure that you will never be a man ever again." When my mom asked him what he meant by that, he just said that it would go home in a skirt. My mom said, "What do you mean by that?" Dad just said that it would be more comfortable in a skirt than in pants, not to mention the fact that it is not worthy of wearing pants. My mom goes that this is your son lying in that bed. My dad then said that no, he is a little sissy and not a son of mine. If he wants to wear bras and panties like a little girl, then he can just wear a dress as well. For that child stopped being my son when he started wearing a bra all the time like a girl. Only females wear those things, and with a good reason. Males do not wear bras. Now I can understand him wearing the panties. This does make buying for the children easier, as his sister and he are the same size now. Now you and my daughter spending my money on bras is one thing. Having to buy them for my son as well is something very different. Therefore, if he is going to wear a bra, then I figured that he should at least fill it out properly on his own. Therefore, you can see he will never be a man. One other thing, I made sure that once he started filling out his bra, that he would not have the balls to stop it from happening. After all, he did not have any balls to stand up for himself in the first place. Now you have your 2 daughters, and no husband, for I cannot live in a house with a little sissy in it. Dad did say that he would still support us with money, but he would not be around anymore. My girlfriend found out what he had done to me. All she did was buy me makeup and take me shopping, saying what a sweet girl I was.
This all started about 2 years ago, when I met Chelsea. Chelsea was about 21 at the time, maybe 5'3", and weighed maybe 120 pounds soaking wet. Had beautiful red hair and piercings. She definitely was pretty dreamy. I met her through one of my friends, Caitlin. Chelsea and I hit it off. We both had similar tastes in music and spiritual beliefs. We both talked and hit it off. By the end of the night, I had asked her out. She said yes, and everything was going just fine for a few days. We cuddled and watched horror movies together. Chelsea told me that she enjoyed doing coke, and of course, it being my drug of choice, I told her that I would do it with her. We both had a couple of lines, and then had sex. I was starting to fall for her. One day, Chelsea comes over with alcohol and explains how she always drinks, and that she wanted to get drunk. So I decided to drink with her. As the night went on, she got more and more intoxicated. Then that's when I started to regret my decisions. She pulls out a book that read Feminist Manifesto. Chelsea then shoves it into my face and tells me how I should read her elaborate plans of female world domination. She then goes into tons of detail about how men should be put in fields or killed. The ones that are worthy are put in factories for breeding purposes like cattle. I tell her that there is no way that that would ever happen, and that it goes against human rights. Next thing I know, Chelsea is screaming about me, how I am wrong, and every man is a pig, that men are useless, and women are the superior sex. As this goes on, all I want to do is shut her the fuck up. After the whole conversation was over, and I let her rant, she passes out on my couch. I go into my office to go play video games. When she suddenly wakes up, she acts like nothing has happened, starts drinking once again. My dumbass decides, okay, maybe she is just a different person when she's drunk. No big deal. Once she gets picked up, I noticed on Facebook a post that she posts about a meme, about men being useless pigs. and a rant about how feminism should rule the world. I get tired and eventually break it off with her. At this point, she made me hate feminism and anything to do with it. After we broke up, I kept hearing about how Chelsea claims that I was everything that she hated in a man. The words that I heard was chauvinistic, asshole, testosterone-driven, and of course, a basic manly pig. Then later on, I see her down the road at a Walmart with a man who threatened to beat her in public and accused her of cheating on him. After I leave, and a few days has passed, she messages me and tells me how she hates the man that she is with, but can't get away from him, how he assaults her, and she once had fallen for him and didn't know why. After I told her that I can't help her, she then tells me that she regrets letting me go, and that I was the best thing that has ever happened to her. After hearing her beg and plead for me back, I told her that I couldn't deal with her and how she felt about men. I ended up blocking her, and I haven't talked to her since then.
It was my 18th birthday, and as a newly minted adult, I was enjoying my grown-upness by getting as drunk as I could. I'm with my friends in this pub in town, and we're gathered around a table. There's maybe 6 of us in total. A couple of tables over, there's a group of girls, and there's maybe 6 of them. One of them catches my eye when I look over, and she's very stunning. Long red hair, bright blue eyes, full pink lips. I look away and carry on drinking, but she keeps catching my eye again and again. We do that thing where you both catch each other looking, then pretend you weren't looking at all whilst going and doing it even more. Eventually I need another drink, so I get up and head to the bar, and I notice her doing the same. At this point, I notice her body. She's short, but with a great figure. Breasts that are good and round and big. Small waist, wide hips, great butt, everything. I'm pretty much fully in lust with this girl, and we've not even met yet. We get to the bar, and I let her order before me. She gets something like a lemonade, unusual for that pub, but I figured someone's got to be a designated driver, and it's probably her. I order a pint for myself, turn around to head back, and she's there, right behind me. We get to chatting, and she tells me her name's Helena. I make some kind of Shakespeare joke, and she laughs, and I'm in. The rest of the night, I talk to mostly her, though it's cool, because the other lads have descended on the group of girls at the other table. The evening wears on, and eventually we get to the, well, are you going to do it, or just agree to meet each other again, or screw off and pretend this never happened stage. We go for the former. We go back to my place, being very careful not to wake my parents up because I'm still, well, shit, and live at home. And have a great night. Long story short, we ended up going out for a while, always out somewhere. Then headed back to mine. Eventually we drift into actually being a couple. From there we start to do more coupley things, and that's when the crazy leaks in. She starts arguing with me about every little thing imaginable. From not saying hello in the right way, to not being there to wake her up at precisely 6:01 in the morning, or whatever. Every argument escalates into whatever the heck she decides to rant about, and always ends the same way. She threatens to dump me. I coax her back. We kiss, do things. Everyone's happy. After maybe a month and a half of this or so, I get bored of it all. I do the decent thing, and take her out for coffee to a cozy little cafe. Tell her in the best way that I can that we're not working out, and it's all pretty surprisingly admissible. Except it's not. The phone calls start, always from a private number, always of crying. At first to my mobile, then to my home phone, always a private number, always crying. I know she's faking it, because if I never answer the phone, my parents would have a friendly little chat, then hand the phone to me, and immediately it's like the Niagara Falls of freaking tears. Then the emails. Weird, ranty emails of gibberish and threats and pleading to take me back. Hundreds of them. There'd be days when they'd come every 5 minutes. Days when there'd be nothing at all. I changed my number to get rid of her. Got a whole new phone number. And we went X directory with my number. Changed my email too. I still got them for about 6 months after, but eventually they just stopped. And that should have been the end of it. Little did I know. I started going online on various forums, games, etc. On one such forum, I struck up a friendly conversation with this girl on there. I know she was a girl because she showed me pictures of herself with a little scribbled, "Hi OFAB, I'm random username," and whatever, which is pretty conclusive, as evidence goes. We had a great time chatting and whatever, and we had so much in common, it was completely insane. Like, not only did she like the same things I did, but she was this utterly stunning little brunette, like a proper English rose. Anyway, eventually we started going out, having a little Skype chats. Things started out well, but over time, she got a bit too clingy for my liking. She'd ask me where I'd been if I was a minute late, or got jealous if she'd seen a picture of me on Facebook with another girl. She got upset at the slightest thing, or angry if I mentioned another girl's name, even if it was, "Oh, Louise said she liked my work," when Louise was the lecturer of my course. Eventually, I got angry, dumped her, and we had a nice clean break. I avoided those forums, changed my Skype, and that was that. Not learning my lesson at all. I went on different forums, found another girl, and got to know her too. This one was a tanned blonde, all boobs and legs, and sexy, Australian accent as well. She liked most of the same things I did, with enough difference that we would teach each other how to do things, how to appreciate things, how to like things. She was laid back too, and compared to the latest sex, she was a breath of fresh air. If I got on Skype half an hour later than I said I would, she would be cool with it. If I spent a conversation talking about my lecturer, using her name in every dozen words, she'd bitch along with me, making me laugh, making me smile, making me love. Eventually, I talked of meeting her, though it was a long way from England to Sydney and expensive as anything. I was willing to fly to meet her because I wanted to see her face to face, to see the places she told me about, to go to the clubs and bars and restaurants she told me she loved. I wanted to hold her in my arms and kiss her and actually have a proper girlfriend again. She immediately broke up with me, saying I'd only be disappointed with the reality. Then came the latest girl. She was Canadian, brunette, something of a rock chick, completely different to my usual kind of girl. We met on some chat site I used when I was bored and got talking, swapped details, etc. She introduced me to a ton of music I'd never even considered listening to, and I did the same to her. If I complained about something, she told me to man the hell up. If I turned up late, she told me it was fine because time is something the man makes us believe in. She was the coolest freaking girl I'd ever known. Again, we dated on Skype and whatever. Again, we talked about meeting. Again, she broke up with me, saying that it had all just been in fun for whatever. It was cool. It was admissible, and fine, and that was that. All this happened over a couple of years, with me being with each girl somewhere between 4 to 6 months, and my between times maybe 1 to 3 months. I was a quick worker, and screw the rebound stuff. Anyway, I came back to my hometown for the holiday. I think it was reading week, or something like that. And being on campus then, I was wandering along the road, when who would I see but Psycho Girl? Rather than avoiding her, I carried on walking. She came up to me, said she had something to tell me, and we needed to talk, desperately. I made all kinds of excuses, but each one she batted aside until she wore me down. We went to the pub, and she told me something that basically terrified me. She hadn't wanted to give up on me, so she'd use what she knew of me to find places I'd go online. She'd made different accounts, lots of different accounts, in hopes that she'd find me, so she could talk to me and try to win me back. Except she'd make fake accounts, so I wouldn't immediately ignore her. See where this is going? Yep, every one of the girls I'd dated has been her, using pictures of friends, using fake accents, pretending not to know things she knew. She'd follow me across at least a dozen different websites, stalked me across hundreds of posts and threads, and all the time had made me believe I was talking to completely different women. I didn't date anyone for a couple of years after that. I don't know what came of her after that. She sort of disappeared from my life, and I haven't seen her since. I went out briefly with a couple of other girls, but only ones I'd met face to face, who didn't look anything like her at all. I don't know if she still follows me about online, or if she does, if she knows anything about this account. But if you're looking at this, hi Helena. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.